I'll hand it over to Terry. So thank you again, Terry.
Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you so much, everyone, for your kind words. I can talk about more with that later if you'd like, but for now, let's get started with our presentation for today. Um, so Steve and Amy talked to me about you guys were looking for some compassion fatigue information, and we do a cohort training on it. It's newly added a couple years back. So I kind of took from what's in the cohort and kind of condensed it to today and can help you get some things within an hour and a half. But if you want more information, you can always email Patrick and you can do it in the cohort. So even if I am leaving, I am still gonna be a trainer in the cohort. So you can't get rid of me that easily. So if there's more topics that I go over in the cohort more in depth, so this is kind of just like an overview of everything. So the title for today is Burn Bright, Not Out: Interactive Strategies for Overcoming Compassion Fatigue While Staying Strong. Some ground rules I like to keep in the beginning of each presentation. Again, this is a safe space. I know it is being recorded for just learning purposes, but if there's ever a time that you're going to share something that you're not comfortable with in a recording, just let us know because we can take it out. I already talked to the communications team about that because we want all information that's shared here confidential because we are going to be talking about some difficult situations. If you're open to talking about it in the space, if not, I'll be sharing my own. And then you can share in the chat, or we're going to have some journaling activities as well if you're not comfortable. But also, we're just going to respect each other's comments and questions. Everyone has different opinions of different sides. So I just want to make sure we're all respecting one another when someone's speaking. We're not talking over them, just kind of hearing them out, listening to them, letting them finish. A lot of reflective listening, a lot of MI. Also, you can share outside of the chat by unmuting and using your audio. I want it to be a conversation as well. I might be a little different than some talks that you've had during your meeting. So this one I like to conversate with you just to, see how you're feeling with the topic as well. And then, of course, collaboration is encouraged. I think we're all professionals in this field and we all have different ideas that we can bring that can add to each other's intelligence. So let's get started. We're going to start with a Mentimeter activity just so I can get a gauge of everyone today. So I'm going to stop share so Amy will share that Mentimeter. So if you go to menti.com, and then the code's going to be 56073467. Thank you, Helen. And this is just a simple, how are you feeling this morning? I know I says morning, and I just realized this is the afternoon, so that's my own fault of not editing because I'm used to doing these in the morning. So, how are you feeling today? Just in general so far. Happy, sleepy, excited, curious, nervous. If it's not on there, you can put it in the chat as well. People could be feeling different things. Cool, cool, cool. So I see we have about 23 of us in this room. So we'll get some more. Happy, sleepy, curious, nervous. Yeah, it is the end of the day. I got you guys after lunch, so I understand that can be a hard spot with lunch sleepy time. So I understand. I ate my lunch, so I was a little energized for today. Awesome. Okay, so we have a good assortment of everything. So happy, sleepy, excited, curious. I'm like a bunch of emotions. My last day is tomorrow in the office, so I'm like happy and then I don't want to be too happy, but I'm sad. So I completely understand where everyone's feeling right now. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next slide, please, Amy. Okay, so just use one word that you think describes compassion fatigue. So you don't have to look it up. It's just what you know from your knowledge. If you don't know, that's completely fine. Just feel free to put one word that you think describes compassion fatigue. Okay. Burnout. And if you're new to Mentimeter as well, the larger the word gets, the more people are putting the same word. So that's why you might see some words larger than
Every
others.
time you drive, he's like, oh my gosh, I was driving and the
Burnout,
car came in into the truck with me.
exhaustion, grace, no joy. Okay. Tired, common, overworked, overwhelming. Okay. 10 responses. Okay. Hardship, exhaustion, autopilot, that's a good one. Haven't seen that one yet. Okay. So pretty much in the same role, and I'll address this too during the slides, but just want to get your idea of what you think comes to mind. Absent is a new one I saw. Disengaged. Okay. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. Amy, if we can go to the next slide, please. And then this one is just, what do you want to get out of this training? If I'm not already going over it, I just want to make sure if I can hit it, I will, just to make sure I cover any questions. But of course, you're more than welcome to ask throughout the training. If you're just excited to be here, you can do that. If you're fulfilling a requirement, you can see that as well. It's completely okay. Reminder of the signs of burnout and how to help. Okay. Ideas on how to stay motivated. Perfect. We have some activities in the training. Learn how to stay engaged, motivated, regain your compassion, more knowledge. Okay. Cool. Keep putting those in there if you'd like. Um, but I looks like I'm covering most of these. Learn practicing techniques that can help clients. Okay. Collaboration, best practices, how to support the team. Seeing me. Oh, thank you. Okay. Cool. So just to clarify too, this training was for compassion fatigue, usually in cohort, is based around you all because we recognize that after the cohort session, it's a lot of what to do with clients and how to provide for clients and everything, but we never took the time to do a training that can help you all. It's always like we're caregiving for you, for everyone else, but we forget to caregive for ourselves. So a lot of these activities, or the two activities that I am covering today, can be translated into client usage because there are handouts and you can reference it with them. But I want us to keep in mind for today, we're going to focus on you as the home visitor, as a caregiver. In that language, because we do understand you're doing a lot in this community, you're holding a lot, and we want to make sure you're recognized for your work and you have time to be a little selfish for today. And that's a term that I think we don't use a lot, and it could be misconstrued as negative to say you're selfish. But in certain circumstances, and especially in this job that you all do, we tend to forget about ourselves as we're taking care of others. And I'll explain that more moving forward. But you can definitely use some of these techniques with clients. I just want to let you know, I won't ignore that comment. I just want to address it as well. Cool. Thank you so much, Amy. We'll go back to my presentation. So thank you for participating in the Mentimeter. And again, if there's something I missed or you need more clarification on throughout the training, just let me know and then I'll be happy to address that. Okay, so some objectives for today. We're going to understand some definitions, signs, and symptoms of compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, and secondary trauma stress, along with other ones that can coincide and go all together as one topic. Understand the similarities and differences between compassion fatigue, again, vicarious trauma, and burnout. Identify and retool the importance of self-care in your lives. Address and help staff with balancing life and work stressors, and learn tips and strategies that can help you prevent those stresses or at least make them better. I also want to make a caveat as well. I'm not here to, I hope, I'm not going to solve everyone's problems. I wish I could. But these are just some tips and techniques and some steps that you can take so that after this training, it can help you balance your work life. But it's also what you put into it. So if there's activities that and things that you're not really engaging with, or you need more assistance in, just let me know if these don't work. That way I can help you kind of create a different plan of balancing your work and life stressors. Okay, so everyone that knows me knows that I am a big Disney freak, Disney adult. Specifically, Winnie the Pooh is my favorite. Eeyore is literally my spirit animal, which is weird, right? Because Eeyore is known as this very sad, depressing character. But if you really look into certain things that he says and certain characters, there are some sunshines and rainbows between what he says. This one specifically is from Winnie the Pooh. He's known as the more enjoyable, joyful character, which can be us on some days. And I love this quote where it's, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you'll ever know. If that resonates with anyone, does someone want to unmute and let me know what that quote means to them? not, it's okay.
I'll unmute. I think a lot of us can be really hard on ourselves and often forget, how others see us through their eyes, and this is just a nice reminder of not to be so hard on yourself.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Helen. Yeah, exactly. I like to think of this whenever I'm having a really hard day or a difficult day. And that's professional or personal. Because we all go through different things. All our problems are all our own problems. No one's is bigger than others. So we are our worst critic, right? So I think it's always best to kind of take a moment and sit down and remember like the little positive things in our life because there. There are positive ones there. It's just we have to take the time to find them. So with that, we're going to do our first journaling activity for today. So if you have a piece of paper or a notebook out, if you don't already, or you're on your computer and you want to take it that way, you can. We're going to take at least 5 minutes to do this journaling activity. I'll have a timer on my phone. So if you can answer these following questions, you don't have to share these if you're not comfortable. I will give some time after if you're more comfortable sharing an answer or two. But again, because this is a personal journal activity, you don't have to. So, the first question is, what happens to you when you are feeling overwhelmed? What are your particular vulnerabilities? Do you believe you are good at handling your work and life stresses? And do you find time to do things for yourself? So I'm going to give you all 5 minutes on my timer. And for these specific questions, remember to really dig deep and take this time to think about the answers to this. I know some of us don't have time to do that, so I really want us to take advantage of the time you have and answer these questions that you might not think about. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, awesome. So does anyone want to share? You don't have to share your answers, but how was it doing this or writing down answers? Have you ever thought about these questions before? Did this bring up any feelings that you've left untouched?
For me, I kind of felt when I was doing this activity that I was kind of releasing stress and like kind of venting in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So now I kind of feel like I just debriefed and I just had to get off whatever I needed to.
Oh, nice. Yeah. This is definitely a debrief part. I know I when I go to therapy, I do therapy. Journaling was something that was new to me as well. I'm not used to writing down my feelings because I didn't think it would help. But it's when you really take the time, and it doesn't need to be 30 minutes or 10 minutes. It doesn't even have to be 5 minutes. If you're feeling something in that moment of 1 minute and you just want to write it down, just that act of writing it out and reading it out loud and seeing like, oh, it really wasn't that bad. I was just like having a moment, or maybe I should have eaten today. That can release that stress because you're visually seeing it as well. Thank you so much, Alexis. Anyone else?
For me, I noticed I read something here that you put in one of the questions. What are your particular vulnerabilities?
Mm-hmm.
Oof, that's a tough one for me because I do as much as I'm a people person. I talk with anyone. I can aboard approach anyone and aboard any conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a hard time sharing personal things, especially if I'm going through rough times. I just not open. And that's one of the things that I'm aware, but
Mm-hmm.
still I don't, I mean, if I start sharing, it has to be a like very specific moment. Not that I plan it, it just have to happen. Other
Mm-hmm.
than that, I will feel very like, no, very, very hesitant to do that. But I notice when I do, it's just that happens like spontaneously.
Mm-hmm.
But is one of those particular things that I have.
Thank you for sharing, Tina. Yeah, I know putting in that question can be loaded as well. And I just so you all know, I did all the activities that I share and I answer all the questions that I give because that way I can see and understand how it feels. I can understand to your guys' perspective, of course, to see clients, I don't do what you do, but just so I can understand the feeling and the vulnerabilities part is hard, right? Because you, like especially you, Tina, I know you for a long time. You are a caregiver. You're very like very friendly with everyone. But there's days where we can't always be happy in ourselves. And that one day where we're just not feeling up to it, that's when people start noticing. But when we're completely fine and we're just happy all the time, that's when people are like, okay, that's her normalcy. But people tend to forget it's a human reaction of when things happen, we tend to hold it in and it shows in our face no matter how hard we try. Also, it shows in our actions of how we respond to things, of how we're feeling that day if we start to feel sick. That can also be another thing. How we respond to people, how we interact with people is also another instance of how it can show physically of when we're stressed. And when you said sharing it, you like to block yourself off, that's another physical response of you like to guard yourself. And people will notice that and people can feel that, especially people close to you. And it's not an easy thing to fix. I know, especially for me, showing vulnerabilities is not easy. But there are times where it just naturally comes out because I've been holding so much in that your body physically cannot take it anymore. So it just starts seeping out. And that's when you have to realize that you're at a hyperarousal state of your body, which we'll talk later on. Um, and that's when we're like, okay, maybe we need to reevaluate and see what's going on. Am I burning out? Am I tired? Did I hear something that triggered me? And then that's where the activities that we'll do later can kind of help regulate you in that way. So thank you so much for sharing. I think I saw a chat pop up. Let me see. Alexis, you agree with Tina? You're the same. Yeah, it's very common. Like I said, I feel the same way too. And a lot of us have our own vulnerabilities that sometimes we don't even think of. So yeah. Okay, cool. Let's continue and then we'll talk more. I can talk about this all day. So, we'll just go over quickly what compassion fatigue is. I know you all put like burnout, you put checked out, autopilot, no joy in your comments in the Mentimeter. Just by definition, it's basically a deep erosion of our compassion and your ability to tolerate strong emotions and difficult stories to others. It's obviously evident in helpers and caregivers such as yourselves and ourselves, professionally and personally. So, imagine being someone, and I know this from someone in cohort from last year that is a caregiver, as a home visitor. They see clients and then they also go home and are a caregiver for a parent or a grandparent. And they don't have a break between being a caregiver because that's what they're doing 24/7. So their compassion fatigue scale is really minimized because they're constantly doing that job or they're constantly having to put on that kind of caregiver personality that they're helping everyone else, but they tend to forget and put themselves in the back burner because, having a big heart does have some side effects to it. And again, this can happen to anyone. It doesn't just happen to medical workers. It can happen to anyone in any job, any career, any culture, um, any color. There is no discrimination against it because everyone has the ability to have a lack of compassion fatigue, lose their compassion fatigue, but we can always gain it back through exercises and things, which we'll talk about later. So vicarious trauma. So, vicarious trauma is a repeated exposure to difficult stories that can change your worldview. So, especially in our jobs, we hear a lot of things from clients. We hear a lot of things from the news. We hear a lot of things from our friends, our family on a daily basis. And constantly hearing it can affect your perspective on the world. So, you can kind of see the world differently. For example, that can cause nightmares, that can cause sleep paralysis. It's difficult getting rid of certain images in your head. So, you can be walking and see something that reminds you of that difficult story, and it can trigger a trauma effect where you shut down. Also, intense preoccupation with a particular story. So, I know one that was going around lately was there was shootings, school shootings, and that's not an easy topic to hear, right? I personally don't have kids at the moment, but I can only understand from like having nephews and nieces, and constantly hearing that really scared me because I would always text my cousin and be like, "Is he okay? Did he make it to school okay? Like, did you check, is his friends okay?" And even though they're not my kids, it's still a constant recurring of like, oh my gosh, are they going to be okay? Because it's my natural caregiving aspect of making sure that everyone's safe, even though it's out of my control. But by thinking that, I was adding more stress to my life because of the fact that I was putting on stress that wasn't necessarily needed at that moment because they were safe. And it's just hearing everything from outside and putting it into my daily life adds that stress that can be removed because we're taking on too much at one time. Um, so again, hearing those, and then also anything that you've been exposed to at work. So dealing with a client of something of a similar situation that you've dealt with maybe, or you known someone that dealt with, having that personal connection with it can also stick with you a little bit longer and cause you some vicarious trauma because you know someone personally that dealt with that story, so you're relating to it, and then you're re-exposing yourself to that trauma, which can lead to a risk of burnout, and it can lead to risk of other physical aspects that can lead to increased stress. So usually what I like to say is when hearing stories, always ask permission. And I have a separate section of it in the cohort compassion fatigue training of like trauma dumping and everything. But just for right now, whenever you're sharing a story, always kind of ask that person that you're sharing to and be like, this is going to be a heavy story. Is it okay if I share it with you? Do you have the capacity to hear this today? Because I think even with family and friends, we tend to just be comfortable and share something with them, but they might be dealing with something that we don't know about, and they're not ready to hear that. And you don't want to cause trauma on them as well, because what if they're dealing with something, you add on to their stress, they're holding their stress, and now they have to hold on to your stress. And then they have to hold on to your stress. So it can be like a train or a chain effect. So again, just ask for consent. Just make sure, hey, I had a tough time today at work. Can I share a story with you? It's gonna be difficult. And then also be aware of what you're sharing in the story. Do certain details need to be included? Do you need to add graphic details to your story to get the message across? If not, then just tell the story without those graphic details. That way you're still venting out what you want, but they get some consideration of what you're sharing. And then they also don't have to hear about the graphic details, so you're not spreading that trauma to them moving forward. So this goes into primary and secondary trauma. Again, some of these events can cause overwhelming affective states in yourself and in the people you're talking with or sharing your stories with, and they may not be capable of, dealing with that emotion or understanding that emotion at the time. They may be open to listening, but they don't know how to react or they don't know what to say, and it puts them in a tough situation. So usually you can understand in certain situations when someone's telling you a story that's really hard to hear and you don't know how to respond. So you go, "Oh," or you go, "Oh yeah, I think I can understand," or you kind of just nod and sit. Have any of you been in that situation? I know I have, right? Where you don't know what to say and you're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." That's always what I say if I don't know, and I know that's not okay to say. Because also you didn't do the fault, but also it's because you mentally shut down because you're hearing something very heavy and you don't know how to process it. So instead of responding right away, take a breather and just listen and just like, okay, I'm just processing this right now and I don't want to say the wrong thing. That way, it takes your time to kind of go through the events and you can help them out as much as possible if they want the help. And also, it's also telling someone, hey, I just need you to listen, or hey, I need some advice. Because it's okay to put boundaries, and I think we forget that too when we're telling these stories and we're hearing stories, is we don't put boundaries on ourselves and the people telling the story, or vice versa. They don't put boundaries on themselves, so we don't know what to do, and we're just overwhelming everybody. Um, Again, this goes with personal family, this goes with your coworkers, anyone that you talk to that you're close with or you talk to on a daily basis are constantly hearing the same thing. So you just want to make sure that we're not re-traumatizing them and making them experience an event all over again that we don't know about. Yes, Puthevi, you have your hand up?
Thank you, Terry, for bring this up. I have a question. Like, for example, a client share you a story, with a challenging story that client went through, and like you mentioned, I understand. Instead, I understand. Can be like, thank you for sharing your story, and I'm sorry that you go through this. Is that okay to say that?
Yeah, of course, Pithava. Yeah, I think you answered that really well. And I'm not gonna tell you it's wrong or right. I think saying you understand, if you do understand, that's a really good response. But sometimes by saying, oh yeah, I understand, it can kind of dishearten someone from their story. So saying like, oh, thank you so much for telling me because you're acknowledging their vulnerability with you. And then saying, if I do apologize or I feel bad or like I am sorry, that's completely okay. I think you answered that really well. And one example is common that I got when I dealt with a miscarriage was I love my family, but some of them were like, oh, it's gonna be okay. You'll have another one, or oh, your aunt had one later and she was older. It's fine. And it's like they were trying to support me. So it was not from malice. It was just they were just trying to help, but they weren't understanding that using those terms and those words were actually more hurtful to me. I rather them just said nothing. But again, that's my boundary because I didn't say anything. I just said, "Oh, thank you." Instead of saying, "You know what? Like this is really hard for me right now. I just need a moment to kind of deal with it, and then I'll come to you when I'm ready." So again, different stories. Also, with secondary traumatic stress, again, this is the emotional stress, and then it results when an individual hears about firsthand trauma experiences from another. So let's say I went through something, Patrick heard that I went through something, and then he told someone about my experience. So it's again like the chain, and it's because it didn't come from me, it came from Patrick, and he's like, "Well, I heard from Terry. Terry told me this, and I felt really bad for her," and da da da. Da. And the person they're telling is also like, oh my God, they're experiencing that trauma with Patrick from what he heard from me. So again, it's just kind of pushing that towards everyone instead of kind of creating that boundary together and making sure that everyone is okay with hearing certain things and what they're not hearing. And sometimes they're not okay with talking at all. There's days you have to remember with coworkers, everyone's dealing with certain type of stress, and they're also holding their own caseload and their own stress with their clients. So always asking, hey, I had a, tough client today. Can I talk to you about it? And sometimes your coworker is just going to be really nice, like, sure. But it's also to check in with them if they shut down, if they're more quiet than normal, be like, did you have a okay day? Like, did your clients go well today? Because it's also good, like, even if they're checking on us, we have to check in on each other and on them as well. I saw a chat. Oh, yes, from Whitney. Not from malice, also being dismissive and harmful in an unintentional. Yes, definitely. Yep. Thank you so much for your comment. And then again, some examples of this, PTSD and everyone. And PTSD goes beyond military. It can be anyone can have PTSD with any type of situation. Um, and then it can be consequences of work. Again, this can be specifically with medical professionals such as ourselves because we are more exposed to certain things. EMS, it can also be from, again, doesn't discriminate, but anyone that has personal lives of their own past with other family members, other relationships. It can bleed in from anywhere. So you just kind of want to be aware of, if you have any trauma in your history or if you've dealt with anything in your history that you didn't address or you kind of tend to be the person that shoves things under the rug, you just want to make sure that if you do get triggered from it or it does come up later on, that you know how to handle it. Um, Trust me when I say shoving things under the rug is not fun. I used to be a person like that, but it takes a lot of practice and therapy for sure. Okay, so burnout, again, this one is more physical and emotional exhaustion because it's over time, you're just stressing you haven't dealt with it or frustration that you haven't talked about or released. Also, it's the depleted ability to cope with certain work demands. So before you were very efficient, and then over time you tend to be like, oh, I'll put it off. I'll do it tomorrow. Or oh, I'll do it in some week. And then you start getting overwhelmed and then you can't complete your tasks. Also, you tend to feel powerless to achieve goals. So before, when you were more goal-oriented, like every day you had a to-do list, and then like a couple months later, you're like, "Ah," and then your to-do list gets bigger. You're like, I can't do this anymore, and I don't feel like doing this anymore. Also, again, this can happen in any occupation at any time. This can also happen to people in school, especially people that are juggling school and work all at the same time because they're carrying a lot of load. Um, so just recognizing certain traits of yourself when you're feeling that type of way. It could be burnout, it could be compassion fatigue, it could be vicarious trauma. especially with at work, for example, in the picture with cynicism at work, you're not really a sarcastic person, but all of a sudden you start saying sarcastic things and you start not being empathetic towards your coworkers or the stories that you hear. Just being aware of what's going on in those situations. And then there's also physical signs, like I mentioned earlier, of compassion fatigue. Again, the most known ones, again, that we see are exhaustion. You can tell when you're feeling tired, like you know yourself for being tired. And you can also tell if your coworkers are not up to par today or they look a little more tired than normal. I know some of my friends tell me that. And they're like, "Are you good today?" And to me, I'm like, eh, but like I didn't hide it really well. Again, insomnia, headaches, increased susceptibility to illnesses, so you're getting more sick than normal. You usually don't get sick as often, but lately you're like, why am I getting sick every month? Also somatization, hypochondria. As we know with hypochondria, it's like an abnormal anxiety about your health. So you think that something's happening worse than it already is. So let's say, like your chest hurts and you're like, oh my God, am I having a heart attack? Am I having a stroke? And it's like, no, maybe I'm just having a panic attack. But that's where your brain goes. Somatization is the production of recurrent or multiple medical symptoms, but they don't have an organic cause. So you can be throwing up, but you're not sick, you didn't eat anything bad. It can be from stress. It can be from anxiety. You can have a headache. Tension headaches, stress headaches are a thing. Um, you can just feel physically weak after a certain trauma, but there's no physical actual issues with you. It's just anxiety and stress and the overability to handle certain situations. And that can come out in those symptoms as well. Psychological symptoms and signs that you can see as well, distancing yourself from anyone, from your family, your friends, coworkers. You have a negative self-image, so you start to see yourself in a negative light. Before you would feel confident wearing a certain outfit, but now when you wear it, you're like, oh my gosh, I hate how I look. Even saying small things like, oh, my hair looks gross, or I don't think I look great today. But constantly saying that about yourself is a big sign. Depression is a big one. Reduced ability to feel sympathy or empathy. You don't feel empathy, like I said, for certain things anymore. You don't have sympathy for people. Not that you completely lost sympathy for people, it's just a lessened amount. So if you hear a story where usually you're like, oh my gosh, I feel for you, I understand. It's more like, oh, well, that just happens. And that can tend to happen with being exposed to different stories, like I said in the beginning with vicarious trauma. If you're exposed to a certain story so many times, sometimes over time your psychological signs can be, oh yeah, I've heard that so many times. That's just what's happening in the world today. But but you're decreasing your level of sympathy and empathy towards people and people that are experiencing those. You tend to have resentment. It can be resentment towards yourself, towards your job, towards your family, towards your life. So just being aware of that. Heightened anxiety or irrational fears. You tend to be more fearful of certain things that you weren't of before. Like you don't want to go outside. COVID for a long time, a lot of people were so scared to go back outside and they were having really bad anxiety and panic attacks because whether it be their health or it's interacting with people that they haven't with before. Um, Also feeling professional helplessness. So you don't feel like you're getting supported at work. You don't feel like you're getting the right tools you need to successfully get your job done, or you just don't feel appreciated. Depersonalization. So again, it's the act of you don't see yourself in that light. So you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you know you're here, you know you're at work and you're working, but you're like your mental state is somewhere else. So, for example, I can give is like I'm working, I'm working, I'm working, but mentally I'm just like checked out and I'm somewhere else, but I'm watching myself work, but it's because I don't have the capacity to be here. I'm just trying to get the work done and then that's it. Also, like I said, disruption of worldview. So you tend to see the world in a negative light again. It's hard for you to see the joy that's going on around you. And then the dread of working with certain patients or coworkers or clients or family members. And that can be with overtime too. It's if you're holding an animosity towards a coworker or you're holding stress towards someone or at work and you just don't know how to express it because you just want to push it under the rug or you don't know how to handle it without it being a big conflict. Also, is it a big conflict? Is it something you can talk it out with your coworker? Is it something you're just feeling that day, or is it other stressors that are adding on to it that are just making it seem like it's worse than it is? So again, there's multiple physical and psychological signs and symptoms. I put a lot that I've seen over the years in cohort. Just some examples. Again, loss of hope, difficulty. This one was a big one. Difficulty separating personal and professional lives. That's why we actually did the cohort because um, we were noticing staff were saying, I did 30 plus trainings and I am so stressed out, and they just started. So we just want to make sure that we were able to give you tools and techniques to do that. Again, insensitivity to emotional material, certain things that should give you emotion, you're just very blank to it and you don't have any emotion towards it. And then you have an increased sense of personal vulnerability. So how I asked you about your vulnerabilities in the beginning, over time, if you're really stressed and you're really burnt out, they start to come out more, and you start to recognize like, oh my gosh, am I really like I am not strong at this, or someone else can do this better than me. And then it gets worse over time. So just being aware of that negative talk towards yourself, the low confidence, sensitivity to certain things or no sensitivity to other emotions, just being aware of that. And there's multiple other ones that you can experience on your own. Everyone is their own person, so everyone might experience things differently or more intensely or less intensely than others, but these are just some that can come up over time. So to say with all that, it all comes together and is all relatable, right? So burnout, prior trauma, traumatic grief and loss, direct exposure, secondary trauma, compassion fatigue, and systems failure. All of that comes together and can increase your risk more and more and more of having burnout and compassion fatigue. So if you have any of these or you've dealt with any of these, which is normal, there are some things that we can do to help you balance it out, help you identify them moving forward, so you know how to put a stop to them or to lessen them over time. Okay. So, that was very heavy things, and I shared some stories that might have traumatized you, so I apologize in advance. But we're gonna do a self-check right now, and I like to do these like daily as well. So we're gonna do some breathing exercises, and with that, I'm gonna bring in my partner in crime, Patrick, who's gonna do some breathing exercises with you. And I want you guys to do this with us. You can mute your camera for it. So if you feel awkward breathing on camera or you don't want to see anyone, but we're just going to do this twice and then we'll continue on with the presentation.
All right, thank you, Terry. So I'm actually going to have you all sit up straight if you can in a chair. Make sure your feet are planted. And what's going to happen is I want you to close your eyes. You don't have to be on camera, like she said. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in. I'm going to do a count. We're going to hold it. I'm going to count that. And then we'll breathe out and I'll count. So I'm going to give you about 3 seconds to center yourself, clear your mind, and you're going to inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to do it one more time. Center yourselves, plant your feet, and we're going to inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and go ahead and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, I did that too. Do you guys take the time every day to do that? To breathe? I think we forget sometimes. I know I do. Okay, so this one's a good technique we like to use. If you want a recording of Patrick's voice, let me know. We could make a CD. But yeah, you can do this in your car. You can do it by yourself. Even if it's too much in the office, you can go to the bathroom and just breathe. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to count. I know some people in the beginning when I showed it, they were like, oh my gosh, I can't hold my breath for 7 minutes. I'm gonna pass out. I'm like, okay, it doesn't have to be 7 minutes. It doesn't have to be, however, you can hold your breath as long as you remember to breathe in times of distress. That's a really good way to regulate. Okay, let's continue. So now that we got the lecture part out of the way, we're going to start addressing these compassion fatigue issues with some strategies like I talked about. So we're going to try and understand what's happening to you. Is it compassion fatigue? Is it vicarious trauma? Is it burnout? Is it everything all together? You're going to understand some of your warning signs. Hopefully you can leave today seeing what your warning signs are so you're aware of them. And then I'll just provide some activities that can help you manage your stress and then identify what makes you happy. So the window of tolerance framework. So this one specifically, Amy is going to add a link or the document to the chat box. So you have this handout that we're going to do. And as she's doing that, I'm just going to explain real quick. The window of tolerance framework is basically your optimal arousal zone. So hyperarousal is when you're feeling overwhelmed and you're in panic. Hypoarousal is when you're calm, but you shut down and you don't do anything, you disassociate. So it's basically we're going to be thinking about what you think widens your window of tolerance. Could it be your experience with something? Could it be the time of the length of time that you've experienced that? Could it be a lack of sleep? Do you need more sleep? So we're going to go to the handout. Thank you, Amy, for adding it in the chat. You can click the link and have that in the chat. So this is a fun little graphic I found that I'm a very visual learner and I like to think it helps instead of just reading it out loud. So again, with the hypoarousal zone, pretend you're on a road and you're driving a road, or in this case, a monkey's on a motorcycle, you're the monkey on the motorcycle, and you're on the road, and sometimes if you're in hypoarousal, you'll swerve too close to the side of the road where the mud is and you'll get stuck in the mud and you can't move. Or you can be driving and then you'll be in hyper arousal and then you'll swerve too close to the side of the road where there's rocks and chaos and then you'll go flying. So we want to stay within the window of tolerance, which is the main road that you're on, so you can get to where you need to go. So we're going to annotate, and I don't know if this is new for everyone, so I'll just go over it with you. At the top of your screen, you should see an annotate function. It's a little pencil with a line under it. If you click the annotate portion, let me hide the names of the annotators real quick. Okay. Okay, I hid the names. So once you click annotate, it should be at the top toolbar of your screen. You can pick, there's an option for stamp. It's a little check mark. And it should show up on the left side of your screen. And then you're gonna think about what you all did today. So whether it be your work day or at home, or whatever, you're gonna be using this feature and it's gonna be completely anonymous. So I made them anonymous so you can't see who's putting what where. And then if you're feeling grounded today, you're going to put a stamp on the road. So I'm going to put the star. So if you can see my star here. But if you're feeling anxious, you're going to put a star on the rocky side. Or if you're feeling a little more disconnected, you're going to put it on the muddy side. So if everyone can do the annotate feature. And then, okay, cool. I'm starting to see stamps. If you don't want to do a stamp and you want to like write or draw, that's completely fine. It's completely anonymous. So we see some people that are on the road, which is great. Some in the mud. Some in hyper. Okay. Cool. Seeing a lot more towards the window of tolerance, which is great. And again, this is just thinking of today. And I don't want to think of the whole week because that might be a lot. But just thinking of today, what you dealt with today, how your day's been going, what your window of tolerance is. And it can change day by day. So just remember, this is really good too that every day your window of tolerance can be different. So like for me right now, mine is on the road, right? But if I'm in reporting season, I can be on hyper arousal because I need to get it done and I want to get it done correctly. Or if I'm giving up and I'm really tired, I can be in hypo arousal and I can just be stuck and I just don't want to do any work today. So again, it can change over time. So thank you for those of you that added your stamps to this activity. Again, you have this as a handout. You can use it with your clients. You can use it with a family member. You can print it out and use it yourself and just kind of look at it if you're feeling in a rut that day. You can kind of see, am I in my window of tolerance today? Am I stuck on my road or am I on my road or am I kind of swerving to certain areas? Again, so for those that are in the hypoarousal zone and hyperarousal zone, kind of remember that feeling when we do the next activity because that way you can use a real situation while you're doing it because we want to find maybe kind of the reasons why you're feeling that way or what situation could have caused you to feel that way today. And then hopefully we can address it before the training ends. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I'm so sorry. Does anyone have any questions about anything so far? I've just been talking. I know you guys asked live and put some in the chat. No? Okay. Okay, cool. If you do, just feel free to unmute and interrupt me. Okay, so that is the window of tolerance framework. Again, this can change daily, so just remember to be aware that you want to always start your day on that road. You want to stay on that road. And then throughout the day, you can swerve into certain arousal zones, hypo or hyper, depending on what you're dealing with, the situations you're dealt with, the deadlines, whichever can happen. But you always want to make sure at the end of the day, you're back on the road. You're not stuck on one side of the road, because if you're stuck on one side of the road for a long period of time, that can increase your risk towards burnout and compassion fatigue. Okay. So okay, well, let me remove the annotations. Thank you so much for participating in that. I hope that was an easy little annotation activity. I know it's a new feature on Zoom that we don't use often. Okay, so again, we're gonna do one more self-check for today. Okay. And this one is a picture one. You've probably done it in some meetings of grounding and self-regulation, but we're going to do it again just as a reminder. So like you said, I love Disney, but I also love water, I'm going to say, which is weird because I don't know how to swim. But I don't think you need to know how to swim to enjoy water, okay? That's my argument. I'm going to die on that hill. So I love water. I think it keeps me calm and it brings me peace. So it doesn't matter what situation or location it's in. It could be a lake, it could be an ocean, it can be a pool. I don't care where it is. It's just for some reason the concept of water always keeps me very calm. Oh yes, I'm a water sign. Maybe yeah. Patrick keeps me on the information on the horoscope, so that's probably why. So yeah, so I like this picture a lot. I see it, it's very calming. I used to have one on my desk or I have it on my phone of a picture of water, and it just, whenever I was just in a mood or I was going through something to ground myself, I would just look at that picture and pretend I was in that picture. And I would just take a minute to look and just like, okay, this is where I want to be and this is how happy I want to be. I'm not here right now. So what can I do to get my mind frame out of this rut so I can kind of be in that peaceful mind frame? So what I want you guys to do, if you haven't already, is find a picture it could be on your phone, it can be on your desk already if you have it. If you don't have one at your desk or on your phone. Make sure it's in your line of sight or somewhere it's easy to see on your desk or again on your phone. I know we're always looking at our phone, so I feel like the default would be on the phone of something or somewhere that makes you happy. It could be your kids, it could be a partner, it could be a place, it could be a destination, or it could be anything. It could be anything you want, but it makes you grounded and it makes you feel grounded. So we're gonna do like 2 minutes. Let's do 2 minutes. Find a picture of anything that makes you feel grounded, and then I'm gonna ask for two people to unmute and share. I'm not I'm kind of volunteering, but I think this one's a good one. And if you don't already have this picture, I suggest printing it out, putting it on your desk where you can see it. So when you're working throughout the day, if you're stressed, you can kind of glance over at it and it's a grounding feature for you. If you have it on your phone, just remember to have it easy access. So if you need to look on your phone real quick, you'll be able to look at it. Okay, I'll do one more minute. Okay. Is there anyone that wants to share a picture that they chose? You don't have to get too personal. Remember, you don't have to share specific details.
I'll go.
Thanks, Tina.
See, there's times that I can be very personal. I have a picture here. I don't know if you guys can see.
Oh, can you describe it to me, Tina? Sorry, because you're in a little box on my
Yes.
screen.
Is the picture of for my granddaughter's first birthday, we decided to go and get a picture take with my two daughters and my granddaughter and myself. I oftenly feel like when I have a lot of questions or when it comes to the personal, and I don't know, who do I talk, what I need to hear. Like I want to hear what I want to hear, not what other people will tell me, right? Because people is good on telling you whatever they think or the way they see you, but they don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to my youngest daughter. She keeps me grounded. She tells me straight out things the way they are. She knows me. So I will get my reinforcing of like maybe my way of thinking or my way of doing things. She will like either tell me no or yes or do this or do that. So that's a good thing. She keeps me grounded. And when it comes to work, with issues about work that I'm having a hard time, then I go to my oldest daughter. She's very professional. She works in the same field that I work. She does work with families. So she's really good. So if I have any issues, I go to her and then she just like, so it's very helpful. And then now we have my granddaughter, and it's kind of like my happy place that I have the best of both worlds. When it comes on the professional side, I have my to-go person. And when it comes to the personal stuff or my emotions or whatever's going on, I go to the other one. So they keep me grounded. And then the granddaughter keeps me going with the energy and all the desire of to doing things and make plans and you name it. So I will say that's my happy place, my comfort place, my place that I feel like, hey, this is what I don't need to go far to find what I needed because I have it here.
Oh, Tina, I love that. No one can beat that for me. Just kidding. No, Tina, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's really great that you shared it was your family. Not a lot of people have that as a blessing. So I'm really, really happy for you that you have that. And again, it's great that you said there's some like $1 for professional and one's for personal. That's the same for me. Like this picture keeps me grounded at work, but sometimes you do need to vent and you need someone to hear you out. I know for a fact if I need an emotional support system, I will never go to my husband because he is such a logical person. But when I need someone logical to tell me the truth, then I'm like, okay, I'll talk to you. But if I need a balance of it, I'll go to Patrick and I'll be like, I need you to understand me emotionally first and then give me the logical. And then there's other friends that I go to and like my mom my mom's a separate situation. That's if I want brutal honesty. But that's when I need to regulate for that. But I'm glad that you have that system. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
And Laurel shared, you got the trifecta, Tina. Yes, you really do.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else want to share one more person? What picture they put or they chose or a person or a thing?
I can share.
Cool. Thank you, Lydia.
So I didn't pull up a picture on my phone. However, my place is always the beach.
Mm,
If I'm feeling stressed or I'm like overwhelmed, then I know it's time for me to get away from my environment, right? And I
mhm.
get away from my environment at the beach. I love sitting there, watching the waves, smelling the ocean air. I love the vibe. It's very carefree, and that is my place of peace.
Love, and as you know, I can completely relate to that in the water aspect. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
So, beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone. And you can put in the chat too if you want a share with me offside. That's completely fine. But yeah, so again, this is a self-check activity that you can take on and you can share with anyone that you know, your clients. But also remember it for yourself is to kind of take that time, 1 to 2 minutes. Again, these don't take long. These don't take up a majority of your day. It can take up 1 to 2 minutes of just you. You can replace it. This is a good example. Instead of taking that 10 to 15 minutes on TikTok or on YouTube or on Instagram, replace that with a self-care activity and do a breathing exercise or remember how you get grounded when you're stressed. Because I know for a fact I'm guilty of being on TikTok for way too long. I can easily replace that when because being on TikTok is not going to help me relieve my stress because I'll probably get more stress. Um, so taking that 2 minutes of my time, putting my phone down and just kind of re-regulating myself. Again, it's us being selfish because in times of need, it's not a negative connotation. We need to be selfish because we tend to forget about ourselves because we are a very caregiving community. Patricia, you put, oh, the sauna room. Yeah, I did the sauna room once. And I did feel that sense of relaxation, but then I got panicked. I think I need to do it more. Um, I got all sweaty and I freaked out, but I'm glad that that gives you peace. I'm glad that there's areas that you guys can go to, again with Lydia and Patricia, of like specific places you can go when you know you need to kind of physically do it. And you can identify to do that. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay. So we're gonna do our second activity for today. This one is what is your rose activity? So it is also in the same link that Amy added in the chat box. It should be the second attachment. So if you can pull that up, you can follow along or you can write it down on a piece of paper as well if you can't write it on your computer. So this is going to be a journaling activity. This is going to be the last one for today, but it's this one's going to take most of our time because we're going to share and talk about it. So this one, if you haven't heard already, it's what is your rose, what is your bud, and what is your thorn activity. So I'm going to explain it. So we're going to think about your day today just because it's more recent for you. But if you're more not comfortable talking about today, you can think about yesterday or another day in the past. Or you can even think about the future if you want. It's easier to think about somewhere in the past. It could be a day you were at work. It could be a day you were off. It could be on the weekend, on a weekday, whichever you prefer. It's all up to you. It's what you're going to put into it is how you want this activity to impact you. Okay. So now that you have that specific date in mind or day in mind, think about a difficult situation that you encountered that day or a negative feeling that you had. This will be your thorn. So write that down. So again, keeping that date in mind, think about a difficult situation that you encountered or a negative feeling. If you want to go deep, you can totally go deep right now. I won't have you share that. If you want to keep it superficial, you can do that as well. Again, it's what you want to take out of this activity. Give you a minute to write it. Okay. So if you're not done, it's okay. We're gonna go back. I'll give you another couple minutes to do that later. Now you're gonna think about the moment during the day where your things have gotten better. So you started to see your day getting better after a negative situation or a negative feeling. It could be something as small as, you were looking forward to eating lunch, or you were gonna get a fun snack. Or it could be something big, like you resolved a problem that you were having a difficult time with, or you found a solution that you didn't think would happen so fast. That will be your bud. So you would write that down in the bud part. And again, the bud part is a mix of it could be start as a negative, but it was increasing to a positive. So again, a day where a moment in your day where things have gotten better or you started to see things getting better. That will be your bud. Okay. Now think about your proudest moment of the day. So a big thing that made your day a success, where you can say at the end of the day, you know what? This is a good day and I made it through. That will be your rose. So write that down. Does anyone need me to repeat any of the instructions? Or does anyone need more time?
Could you repeat again, please, Terry? Thank you.
Sure, Pudevi. Yeah. So again, we're going to start with the thorn part of your rose. Okay, so the thorn is a difficult situation that you encountered during the day or a negative feeling you had. That will be your thorn part. And then a moment during the day where you think things were getting better or you started to see your day getting better. That will be your bud. And then the proudest moment of your day and the big thing that made your day successful, that will be your rose. So your rose is at the end of the day, you can say you made it through. And again, what you write down is your own personal journaling. I will ask some people to share at least, but it could be a feeling. But remember, you're going to get out of this activity what you put in. So if you want it to impact you a lot, think a little deeper. If you just want to kind of try it for today, just think about what you know right now. And then later on, when you're by yourself and you have some time, you can do this on your own. Okay. Does anybody need more time to finish writing? No? Don't see any hands or anything. Okay. So, again, if anyone is comfortable to share doing this activity, I'll take 2 shares. It could be how you felt doing this activity. Have you done this before? Have you heard of this? You can also share what your rosebud or thorn is. If you want me to share mine, I can. But again, I'm asking permission to share. So again, if you want to share, let me know. What? Sorry. Yes, you can put it in the chat as well. Okay, so Patrick put his in the chat. He put his rose was hugging Sierra. His bud was waiting in line to hug Sierra, and his thorn was having to let her go. So again, this is great because this was a situation where Patrick actually did meet Sierra at a concert. He actually physically met her. So this is real. I will contest this is real. But again, see how Patrick thought about that. That's what makes him happy. Everyone knows Sierra makes him happy. So it's a good activity to do like with your clients really quick too. If there's a certain situation like one we had where she asked the mom was like, "Oh, my rose was I gave birth to my daughter. My bud was I was able to be a healthy delivery, and my thorn was it sucked in labor." So it's like you have different things from your clients that you can share, also from coworkers. So thank you, Pat, for sharing. Should I count that as one share and just get one more? Yeah, okay, fair. Patrick help you guys out. I'll take one more share. Patricia, okay, your rose today was you enrolled clients. Nice.
Well, I actually clicked enter too quick. So
Oh, no
when
worries.
when you were saying this activity, I thought about, oh, well, my thorn, I think it's like when I call the client multiple times and multiple times, but then I call the next one and they answer right away. So I think that's the bud.
Mhm.
And then the rose, oh, I enrolled 3 today, so it's a good day.
Nice.
Mhm.
Congratulations. Yeah, I know that's
Thanks.
big. Yeah, see, I
Mhm.
I love that. And thank you for, using work as an example too. I mean, I'm glad you guys are able to use this because I want you to use it in real life situations. I know it's really hard enrolling clients. Hear the story all the time. So to use a situation that can be negative, right? It was very frustrating. You're like, oh, I called you. Why didn't you pick up? And some people don't answer, some numbers don't work, some people don't accept. But at the end of the day, just having one pickup, after that one pickup, you'll start getting calls. Oh, you called me, I'm calling you back. That could be a bud. And then at the end of the day, like you said, you got three. Like that's huge. So finding those little moments of happiness during a hard time is really what's important. And again, you can do this in any situation, with yourself, with your client. You can do this with family. I know in our cohort compassion fatigue, we had a staff member use it at the end of the day with her family when her kids came home from school. And she was like, "Oh, what was a good day? Like, what was a fun part of your day? What was hard?" And they would share. And it gave you a moment to not, the dinner table wasn't quiet. You didn't have to watch TV. You can talk and you can kind of like learn more about each other in your day. It also helps you debrief the day too in like a healthier kind of way because you're not trauma dumping. You're just kind of sharing a negative that could be something that could be super severe that you had a hard time with, or just, you know what, I just traffic really sucked today, and that was my thorn. But the bud for me was like, oh, but I had a really good podcast to listen to. And excuse me, the rose was I got home safely, right? Because traffic is crazy and there's crazy drivers everywhere. So just getting home safe alone is a success, right? So you can take it as deep or as superficial as you want it, but just know the impact itself is that you were able to find something positive and joyous out of a negative situation. And that's why I always start this activity with the thorn, because it's easy for us to know and to identify a hard situation, right? And days where we're having a hard time, it's easy for us to like, how was your day? Oh my God, it sucked. Like, why? And then at the end, you're like, oh, wait, no, but it was cool because I got to see this client today, or I got to work with this coworker, or we got free lunch. But we tend to cloud that with the negative situations because it's easier to do that for ourselves. But by doing that, you're adding the stress and then you're bringing on that risk of burning out because all you're doing is being stuck in the mud or trying to climb these rocks instead of going back to your road and trying to finish your path. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Does anyone want to share before I move forward? No? Okay. So just remember, this is a great activity. That's why I made a handout. You can print it out. You can share it with whatever you need to do. You can do it with your family at the end of the day, with a client's family, with yourself, especially with yourself when you don't have time or you don't know how to start journaling. Ask what are some things that were hard for you? What are your things you're looking for and what was best about your day? Just keep it simple. Also, remember if you are going to do this with others, just use reflective listening. Really hear them out. Don't just respond, oh yeah, yeah, like I can relate to that, or oh yeah, me too. I mean, that's a normal thing we use to respond, but it's always better to reflectively listen, which, we talk about in reflective practice. We talk about in MI because people will really open up to you if you're more open to, if they always feel like you're open to listening and you're really hearing them out with reflective questions. Okay. So now what? So I know it's almost near my time. So, what will you take away from today to keep you moving forward? So, I would like to ask for this to be an unmute activity we can talk about. Again, you don't have to do too in depth, just let me know what you feel like sharing. So, the first question, how will you be applying to what you learned today to your work and personal life? I can get at least one response for this one.
I could share.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Pitevi.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you for the great information. for this training. And one thing I take away from this training is like ask permission before you share your emotional feeling. To ask your coworker before you share, like, is it okay? I have a hard day to share you my feeling. Yeah, so I learned something new today. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Okay. Oh, we got a comment. Laurel, more self-compassion and more awareness of underlying issues people may be dealing with. Yes. Awesome. Always remembering that we're all dealing with something. Everyone's problems mean the same amount to themselves as they do to us. So, like, I like to remind myself, it's like, no one's problems are greater than my own. We're all just dealing with things differently, right? Patricia, you like the rose activity? Cool, thank you. Yeah, it was funny. Like I said, I'm a Disney fan and Beauty and the Beast I love, but the Beauty and the Beast rose did not have a bud in it, so it totally would have ruined my imagery. And then my favorite flower is a peony, and peonies don't have thorns, so I had to stick with the rose, but I'm glad that you guys liked it. Lydia, a reminder if the oh, hold on, sorry. A reminder if the importance of self-care, of the importance of self-care. Cool, yes. Remind yourself of the Winnie the Pooh quote, yes. Taking the time to journal sometime in your day and do breathing practices. Yeah. And again, like some of the things I put in today's quick training is you can do in like 2 to 5 minutes or even less than that. It depends what you want to put into it. It doesn't take that long. The rose activity will take a little bit longer if you want to go in depth and you're talking to everyone. But I wanted to try and incorporate things you can do on your drive to a client's house or right before a meeting and you just need to breathe and re-regulate. So I'm glad you guys like that. Oh, Danielle, maybe the same weather to deal with different ships, how we can support one another. Yep. To be mindful of what we share and reflect on what we are going through. Find a rose in every situation. Yes, Kimberly. Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay. One more question. I think you mostly answered this, but what's one thing you can change today in your daily life that can help keep you moving forward? So if you came in today and you felt like, you know what, I am feeling a little burnt out, I'm looking for some compassion fatigue techniques. What's one thing that you learned today that can kind of help you get out of that rut and keep you on your road forward? You can put in the chat. Instead of TikTok, breathe, Patrick. Positive self-talk, breathing. Great reminder. Thank you. And I'm guilty of this too, guys. I train this too, but I have my moments of like, I'll be honest, I'll be transparent. Before this training, I was like, oh my gosh, what if I have nothing to talk about? What if I talk too fast? It's always nerve-wracking training others, you know? So again, that's negative self-talk. I shouldn't be doing that. Yes, support system. Just keep swimming. Oh, Nemo quote. I got that, Alexis. Breathing techniques and being intentional about self-care. Yes, yes. Again, being selfish doesn't have to be a negative connotation. It is okay for you to take time for yourself because you are always taking time for others. You're a caregiver at natural heart. That's why you guys do what you do. So always remember that. Positive self-talk. Beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna leave today with one more gratitude activity. So I'm gonna turn it over to Amy to go back to the Mentimeter. We're gonna answer one more question on the Mentimeter. And it's the same one from before. So again, go to menti.com. And then you're gonna go to code 5607 3467. Thank you, Helen. And this is a gratitude log. So what I love to do after the training is after training, I want you to put one word in the Mentimeter that you're grateful for today. Just one. Then I save it and then I send it out to you at the end of the training and you either print it out or you save it because I want you guys during a difficult time or, you know, if you just need some reminders, you can go back to this log and be like, oh, wow, that's what I was grateful for today. Or those are some things that people were grateful for in my training today. Because I think we tend to forget the little things in life. So another activity you can use is a gratitude log. You can use this, write it down, or you can use it verbally if you have like a team meeting. You can go around each other and say, "Oh, what are you grateful for today?" And it doesn't just have to be during Thanksgiving. I know we do that during Thanksgiving. What are you thankful for today? But just remember, you can do that outside of that sphere, because there are things that everyone's going to be grateful for, whether it be big or small. So let's see. Oh, they keep moving. Okay. Support. Oh Lord, that moved. Peace, family, sweaters. Yes, it was freezing this morning. For your job, support, snackies. Who put snackies? I love that. Love, coffee, peace, food, coworkers, familia, embrace, a new day, Terry. Oh, I'm grateful for you guys. I really am. Awesome. Thank you. So keep putting those in the Mentimeter. At the end of the training, I'll work with the communications team to save it, and then I'll be sure to email it out to all of you that attended today. You can print it out or have it as a screensaver or whatever you want to do with it. You can totally ignore it. Just don't tell me. But you can use it and save it as a reminder of when your times are rough or you're dealing with something. There are things that you can look grateful for. Okay. So thank you for sharing that for me, Amy. And then I'll work with you to share that with everyone else. And I can't leave you guys with just one Winnie the Pooh quote because I don't think that would be fair, especially when I said my favorite one is Eeyore. And again, he is misconstrued because he's known as being the sad, depressive one, but he's not. He said, "The nicest thing about the rain is that it always stops eventually." And that's always going to be something to remember, is that you may feel like when it rains, it pours, and that's an analogy we hear all the time. But at the end of the day, it's going to stop raining and you're going to keep going. So just remember, in those times where you feel like I can't get out of this rut and I feel really burnt out and I feel like I don't have support, that there is support and there are things that you can do in the meantime to kind of get yourself out of that. Danielle, oh my God, I love it. I love the rain too. That's why we love Eeyore. But let's say the storm, if you want to change it to the storm because we don't like storming. But yes, I'm gonna show you one more video for today and then we'll close out. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Be patient. Everything in life will go exactly how it's supposed to go. At times you will feel like an outcast, that you don't fit in, but you will discover that being your own clique will be your strongest attribute. In life, you are going to face many challenges, many moments of adversity. There are going to be a lot of successes and some failures too. Those moments are going to create your character, build your integrity, and they will become your beauty marks. Be patient.
Thank you, Sierra, for that. If you want to see her whole thing, it's beautiful. So thank you so much for all you do for the community. I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for your time today. If you want more of the compassion fatigue training, you can register for it in the cohort with Patrick. Even if I'm not there, I'm sure there'll be, a great trainer for you. But until then, if you want to contact me, I will put my personal email in the chat so you have it. And you can send me an email of any questions or anything. But it's been a pleasure working with you all. Let me stop share so I can see you. Thank you so much for all you do again. You're going to keep doing it. You're doing such a great job already. If you need more support, let us know. We will always be here to support you guys as much as we can. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day, everybody.